Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today, we're finally getting to it. We're finally getting to our spoiler-filled discussion on Avengers: Infinity War, which is the movie that's breaking all the records at the moment, making all of the money. And tonight, for the discussion, there's myself, Chris Garner, joined with George Aldridge, and Dave is joining us tonight.
Good evening.
No Tate. We were meant to have a Tate on as well tonight, but this is still going to be a long conversation. We've got a hell of a lot to talk about. A lot has happened with this movie, and now we can finally talk about it. So, how are we both doing tonight, gents?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. How many times have we all seen the movie, by the way, just out of curiosity at this point?
I've only seen it once. I'm due to see it again Friday. But yeah, I'm fine. We'll be good.
Nice.
I've seen it twice. I was meant to see it today, but didn't. But I am seeing it next Wednesday in London. So the real question is this going to break my Force Awakens record? I don't know.
Well, we already gave sort of our initial opinions. We did a spoiler-free discussion, which you can check out. I think it's like about 4 videos before this one. So I'm kind of just going to give the floor to Dave right now to get your initial opinions across. We'll get all into the spoilers in a second, but just sort of on the surface, like positives, negatives. What was your first time experience with Infinity War?
This was a cinema experience that I was not quite expecting going in. This has been a slow build. I've been with these from Iron Man. So this whole 10-year build, I've been part of it. And these characters mean way more than I ever thought they would for these Marvel character films. I'm a big Star Wars guy, and that's where my home is. But this meant so much. And this movie made me brilliantly happy, broke my heart, made every fanboy tear roll inside of me that it needed to. I was really impressed with this film. At the moment, to be honest, even thinking now, I can't think of many points that I was either bored or thought, oh, all right, that's not up to much. That might come out as we talk, and maybe I go, oh, I didn't quite enjoy that so much. But as of right now, I'm waiting for a second time to view it to not have all of that emotion behind it, seeing it. It might be a different film together, but yeah, first initial thoughts, I absolutely adored this movie.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of reviews and stuff on the internet, and the biggest criticism seems to be the runtime. But I'm kind of with you on that one. Like, it's a 2.5-hour movie. I thought the pacing was fantastic, in all honesty. I guess my biggest negative, which I talked about in spoiler free, is that if you watch this as a standalone movie, like if you haven't seen any other ones, I don't think it works. I think it is entirely based on and backed up by the fact that you've had 18 previous movies, and that's your foundation. You don't need to go into who's doing what. Like, it just throws you straight into it. It's almost like a TV show at this point. It expects that you've seen all of the previous ones, and if you can overlook that, I think it's absolutely fine. And to be honest, I think most of the audience going to see this movie or has been hyped for this movie have, like you, been with this since the first Iron Man movie. So I can't even bring that as a criticism towards it, but you know.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely. I think, sorry, George. The only thing I saw, like Mark Commode is his name, the reviewer, he said exactly the same thing as that. If you don't go in knowing these films and go in this one off, you will be lost within minutes. You just cannot stay with this film if you haven't followed the backstory, at least seen the main films. I still stand by. I don't need to see everything. I took my wife, and she had not seen Black Panther at that point, and she was still able to follow the full Wakanda because it's been mentioned in Civil War and things like that, and Age of Ultron. So you get an idea of it, and that's really the only film that she'd missed out of him. So I think you didn't have to see everything, but if you want to get the whole experience, it's best to see everything that this was going to throw at you.
I want to point out that 10 years ago today, Iron Man was released in cinemas, which is that. It's a saying that happens a lot, that it makes you feel old. But I remember watching Iron Man 1 at the cinema. I remember that clearly, perfectly. Back in the day when you got your film times on the local newspaper, that really shows an age. But
I used to check CFAX. It's an age thing.
But I think one thing with that, I think that's something I agree with. I mean, with this, we've all been there from the beginning. And I think over the last, I mean, I've got family that are into these films, not as much as me. They've watched everyone in the right chronological order, but the last 5-6 weeks has been just chucking phase 3 on to get them up to date and stuff. And my dad disliked it for different reasons, but something which I had to laugh about, and I'll tell you guys later on. But I think now you're in a point in the franchise where it's it's all like what Chris said. It's a TV show. I think there was a tweet that went viral because a company gave it a bad review, saying that characters just show up and assume you know everything about them. And I think the top reply, I think it was James Gunn or someone else, that tweeted saying, I remember watching the Breaking Bad season finale and I asked, who is Hank? Who is Walt? And I think that was like quite funny because it's true. And I think these films are genuinely like the first ever like TV film series where, you know, if you don't know it, then you're going to have a very different opinion compared to the rest of us.
Yeah.
But I think, not as arrogantly put, but the fact I've been following these for 10 years, like this is the payoff. And I'm happy that I'm genuinely, like, I think as one of my friends said something that I don't like being in the cinemas with the commoners, which I wouldn't go to that extreme, but there's something nice about knowing you've been there from the beginning and you know when you're with the fans.
There's some kind of master race of Marvel fans.
It's like the DC fans, they all come out in their numbers, all 10 of them, and then with the Marvel fans are everywhere. And I think Marvel's hit that point now where you've got genuine fans, like hardcore fans, normal fans that watch the odd Marvel film, people that are going to watch it because it's Avengers, then people that are going to watch it because it's on the news and everyone's seeing it. Mm-hmm. This is in its own like category of genre now, similar to I think what Star Wars is.
Yeah.
However, you did not need to watch 18 Star Wars films to watch the last one.
We'll get to that point. We will
get one day, and then Marvel will have like Phase 18.
You're talking about Star Wars, though. I was trying to think of other sequels that sort of had this level of emotional impact at the end, and I saw some reviewers sort of saying that this is almost like The Empire Strikes Back. Like, this is The Empire Strikes Back of Marvel movies, I guess you could say. I don't know, because the end of Empire it's sort of a downer, but it's bittersweet. It still ends on a hopeful note. There is no hope. Everything's just gone. It is bleak as hell. So I don't know if I'd make that comparison, and I think that a comparison to Empire Strikes Back tends to be what every movie critic brings up at some point, and I don't know if that's justified with this movie. It's a very good movie, but there's a certain caliber that's used in the term Empire Strikes Back, so I can kind of see what they're getting at, though, with in terms of how it ends, and we're kind of eagerly anticipating the next one now. Thankfully, we won't have to wait 3 years in between movies, but
I for once genuinely agree with the Empire Strikes Back comparison. The only film that's been fairly compared to that has been The Dark Knight. But that was in terms of quality, the ending and whatnot. With this, you're right. Empire has a bittersweet note, but that was allowed to have a bit. I mean, by bittersweet, there's literally one guy with one hand looking over at the galaxy from a window, and they're basically refugees. I think this, because we weren't around in 1980. If we were at this age in 1980, all of us, I think we would have very different experiences. But the fact that we did not all watch Empire Strikes Back at the age where you're knowledgeable with films and stuff, because we grew up with Return of the Jedi. And Dave, I know you're a bit older, but you would have grown up with Return of the Jedi like we have still.
It was my first.
So I think we're now in an era where, for the first time in almost 40 years, there's genuinely been a film that's done an Empire Strikes Back that's left people there in the cinema like, whoa. Because don't forget, Star Wars, as in A New Hope, was the biggest film ever at the time of release. And it's fair to assume that currently the biggest set of films ever is The Avengers. And the records this is breaking is backing up this theory now where, I mean, when Dark Knight came out, that was a big hit, right? But Batman Begins wasn't the biggest film of all time. Batman wasn't the biggest franchise of all time. It was huge. And that film made Batman, into the level it is now. Mm-hmm. But you can also argue that Batman's died since this is going up, up, and up.
Yeah.
So I think this is fairly been compared to Empire Strikes Back in terms of the ending and the cliffhanger note.
Yeah.
Very different films.
I've never heard cinema silence like I have when this film finished. The last time I had full cinema silence, seeing Saving Private Ryan at the cinema, and then that finished, and just literally nothing, not a word. People just stumbled out, and this was very much like that, just the mouths open, like just craziness until it kind of gives that slow build of everyone's kind of like, did we just see? We did just. It was great.
Like even the credits were depressing.
There was nothing giving you any hope at all. And my word!
when the title comes up and like the piano riff comes in of the Avengers and it just dissolves off screen. Like even when the credits can do that as well and have that impact on you, that's quite a remarkable feat.
Even the credit scene has people die, and even the final 3 words, Thanos will return.
Yeah,
it's not like the Avengers will. It's Thanos will return. I give them full credit for going through everything, just randomly saying it, because I think if we look at the hype, I mean, we spoke about in the video, the hype this film's had. Now, I've had the benefit of a repeat viewing on Saturday afternoon, which was sold out as expected. Seeing it with the normal crowd, your local cinema, there was still pure silence at that. And I actually think it was a better experience with them than everyone at midnight. It's probably been like some people getting overly excited, which is fine normally, but not during some scenes. And we also had, not badly, but you had pockets of people during the final 2 minutes, which I loved, because someone's favorite character is Spider-Man, and then you had like them crying. Someone's favorite character is Bucky, then you hear them crying. Whereas in mine, because it was genuine, and I think if there were people that would have cried, there wasn't enough for them to hear. It was the dead silence for 2 minutes, and I've already seen the film. I'm just there watching everybody, watching them. It was easily one of the most intriguing experiences I've ever seen in my life.
We'll get into spoilers in a minute, but I want to say that this has been like a complete rejuvenation for me with the comic book genre. Not to say I've disliked every single one, but I think I, like many people, was definitely feeling the fatigue of superhero films in general. I think probably around the time that X-Men Apocalypse came out, and it just seemed that every single movie that was coming out every week was a new superhero movie. And this movie's done it. Like, I am now really looking forward to, well, I was looking forward to Ant-Man anyway, but, you know, Captain Marvel, and I want to see the next Infinity War movie, like, right now. So for it to have that effect on me, and we've still got a whole slew of other comic book movies coming out this year as well, but it seems like it's definitely, this has raised the bar a little bit now, I think, in a lot of people. And because it has got that sense of finality to it, I guess that brings sort of like the old school fans in as well. You know. This
is not your popcorn movie. This is not your go have a good time. I mean, you will have an amazing time if you see this movie. If you haven't, you're watching this, stop. But if you have, this is not something where you're going to sit and just popcorn, look, action, and it is. But at the same time, this is a film way more than it is a movie.
There's stakes to it in this one. It doesn't feel as sort of like you said, like the popcorn entertainment in the other ones where you're just along for it, the ride. It feels like there's actual consequences in this one, and there's actual stakes, and that to me made all the difference. The action scenes now had weight behind them, because at any moment a character could die, and guess what? Characters do die.
And literally, moment one, we get that just start like, oh god, all right, okay, and we're started now, have we?
Yeah, and not just that, but like it's a very well written movie. Like the biggest thing, and I guess the first point of discussion on this review is like Thanos. One of the things that I was most worried about was that yes, like he's been teased a couple of times in previous films, but in 18 movies, I don't think they really did a good job of building him up the way they arguably should have done. From his opening scene in this movie, all of my concerns were just thrown to the wayside. Like in a weird way, you can kind of see his motive. You can kind of see where he's coming from. He is, in some ways, a very sympathetic character. And he's not like, if I'm going with another example of a sort of CGI big bad guy from a recent superhero movie, he's no Steppenwolf from Justice League, who kind of similar motives, kind of, you know, want to cause mass destruction, everything. But there's an actual character to this guy. And even the CGI as well on him, like I thought that was going to get wildly distracting. He was a character to me. When Thanos was on screen, I saw Thanos. I didn't just see some awful computer graphic design on the screen in front of me.
I think very well. Sorry,
I'd say Josh Brolin. Josh Brolin is I don't want to say he's an underrated actor, but you know he's no Daniel Day-Lewis and whatnot. But there's something so chilling about him in this film where does Thanos ever raise his voice? No. He's a villain that has a motive that stands by his motive. And he's almost, you know, he almost respects all of his opponents in the film, which just made him more and more compelling. If you look at his motive, right? Your bog standard film is people want to control the universe. They want to take over the universe. This is simply, I just want to do half of it, then go and watch the sunset. Like he's only in it for that finger snap, nothing else. And there's something that's quite noble about it. And when the film develops and his character develops, which is something brilliant, I think, you know, what you said, and I think I agree in the past that they haven't done a good job of bringing up Thanos over the previous films. I'm kind of relieved they never did now, because this is his film. And I think this would have been a lot harder for people if Thanos had been built up over a lot of other films. Whereas now we get him all developed. This is basically Thanos Part 1. I think this is one way of putting it.
I think it helps as well that we've had the bad guys in the past. Yes, we've had Loki cover quite a few movies, but Ultron was terrible. CG-wise and, to be honest, character-wise, didn't do enough for me to be classed as a big villain. So I just think then Thanos came along and he's got such, as you say, he knows exactly what he wants and he's not out to rule the world. That's never in his thought process at all. His belief is that the world is overcrowded and that's what's causing half the problems. So get rid of half of everybody and we keep on going with a fresh. But he has this emotional weight behind him, and you're right, he hasn't been built up well, but the story that we get of him in this movie told me everything I need to know about that character, from when we first meet him to what happens a bit later on in the movie, and the emotion that he shows as a character as well as a bad guy, which you don't normally. They're very one-dimensional. A lot of these, and forgive me, CGI, but he's so three-dimensional. This character, he really did. He hit every bar that I needed him to, and for me to actually feel more for him in some ways than some of the good guy characters that you're supposed to think of.
Yeah, no, definitely. One thing that came out, I think it was like a couple of weeks ago before the film came out, there was an article from the Russo brothers, or an interview that was taken from them, saying that they've cut a lot of Thanos material out of the movie for running time. And when I read that, I was absolutely gutted, because I thought this is your chance. You need to make Thanos important to the eyes of the viewers, because some people, even if they've watched the movies, they might not have clued onto the whole Thanos thing. Like, he appeared in the end credit scene of Iron Man 1, a little bit in Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was kind of your lot, really. So when I read that, I thought they've either stripped this character back to just like a typical bad guy, and that's made me wonder, actually, like, maybe it was footage they cut, left completely on the cutting room floor when they were first crafting the character, or maybe it's material they're going to save for the second movie, or maybe we're going to get a director's cut. I don't know if we will or not, because Marvel have never done anything like that before. It's usually just a bunch of deleted scenes on the DVD or the Blu-ray. But I think we got just enough. I would have loved more of Thanos, but this is already a 2.5-hour movie. I could very easily have done a 3-hour sit. I think if you're a true fan of Marvel, like, an extra running time won't hurt the film at all. But that last shot of Thanos at the end, it almost reminded me of like a Western or something. Like, I could imagine like John Wayne just like sitting on a rock looking out at the sunset. It was a great ending shot, I think.
Yeah, and I think that final shot, it's his film, and it begins and finishes with him, right? Okay, we get the Asgard shit, but there's no happy. I think I can't remember one of you guys that said there's no happy Marvel. There's no fanfare. It's straight in to the call sign, which has actually been confirmed that Sir Kenneth Branagh is the voice on the distress signal in the opening scene, which is a really neat little Easter egg, because he directed the first Thor film, so he basically created Asgard and it died with him. And I think it sets you up from the first minute. If you look at the first Avengers film, they give you about 30 minutes introducing the characters one by one at a scene each to then merge them together. Now, that worked for the Avengers because there was 6 protagonists in theory. And you get this one, and you're in it from the first minute. And there is not a single second wasted in this film. Everybody is on course. So I'm not going for the subplots now, but literally you get storyline of the Guardians with Thor, you get storyline of New York, you get Wakanda. They don't sit there and build up to these 10 minutes each to then have something happen. It literally, everything immediately happens, and it's almost as if the film's running length is the actual length of the, like, almost live, if that makes any sense.
Event,
it's not like it's
24 of the Marvel universe. Yeah, it's all going on at real time.
I'd happily watch that,
I do, right?
I'd literally watch them fly to Wakanda, like, using Wakanda technology. They get there in like 3 minutes, but that 3 minutes was spent on Titan.
I think that was one of the first things I said to you, wasn't it, in our spoiler-free? Like, I was expecting like a whole long first act establishing everything. Then I think we said like the Wakanda fight was going to be like Act 2, I think we predicted, and then you were going to have Titan as your end one. You've got the opening scene, and then pretty much within the next 5 minutes, Thanos has arrived on Earth and all hell's breaking loose. Yeah. So I kind of liked that. One of, again, a sort of kind of veiled negative I had on this film was that the first act does jump around a whole lot. There are long periods of time where you'll spend with a character, and then it might be like another half hour before you come back to that plot line. But with the sheer volume of characters that the directors were having to deal with and write for in this movie, I don't think that could have been avoided in any way. I think the way they did it, like what you just said, where they split groups of characters off into individual pockets of narrative, I think that was the only way to go about it. I mean, if they just dumped like 20 odd characters together, this movie would have just been an absolute clusterfuck, for want of a better word. So I think what they did, it was the best thing. It was the only thing really they could do to get this movie to be a success.
Yeah.
So you kind of mentioned Thor there, so I think we should just get into those subplots now. So yeah, Loki's dead and Heimdall within the first 5 minutes.
So my prediction was wrong. I said Loki would die first. In theory, he's second. Behind Heimdall, who well, he kind of had to die. I'm surprised he made it this far.
So what happened to like Valkyrie and stuff from Ragnarok? Like Korg's dead. Is Valkyrie dead? Where's
no,
Lady
apparently there's been rumor that they left the ship, that Valkyrie has taken some of the Asgardians.
Oh, okay.
An escape pod, someone that's got out in the initial thing. It came out, the director, might be the guy who did Ragnarok, of Kevin Feige, certainly someone came out and said there are big plans for Korg, so they definitely want to bring them back. Why wouldn't you?
Korg's going to be the one to take out Thanos now in Infinity War Part 2.
What I thought. So when I first watched, they were dead. They couldn't afford to bring them on set for a day just to show their corpses. What I saw that same thing, but what also interested me on the second viewing, when Thor is talking to the Guardians, he says Thanos destroyed my ship and wiped out half of the Asgardians. So maybe something happened which we don't know about, in which half the Asgardians. Because in theory, why would Thanos destroy his entire ship when his goal is to eradicate half, right? So I kind of wonder is this like a pre-credits like scene? Was this what happened before the Marvel Studios word? But what needs to be said is that Korg needs to be the one to destroy Thanos.
I'm still holding out hope for Ant-Man. I think Ant-Man could do it. I think that would be pretty cool. If
we all know that Hawkeye will finish this off.
This is
last 2 minutes of Avengers 4.
He'll
just fire a simple arrow, and that'll be
with Ant-Man on it. He's gonna fire an arrow. He's gonna fire an arrow into Thanos' ear. And Ant-Man's gonna be on the arrow, and then he's gonna go into giant mode inside his skull, and you're just gonna get this like horrifically like this is gonna like ruin kids' minds for the next 20 years.
Thanos did say you should have gone for the head. So
yeah, you get this purple brain just rip out, and it's Ant-Man.
Just end of Avengers 4. Just turns around, Clint rules on his t-shirt, just and off he goes into the night.
I do want to say you haven't got there yet, but it's we knew that. I mean, we half thought they wouldn't be in the film. They've been left off the adverts. It's like the whole "Where's Luke?" You expected a 10-second bit, but there was nothing. The line of "They're under house arrest" that did not. That's one of my like 3 main criticisms of the film.
Yeah,
like I know they had to explain why they weren't there, but the one line "He's under house arrest" is kind of their like jog on Ant-Man's coming out in the summer. And for those that don't know, Ant-Man 2 is set before Infinity War. Some people still don't understand that, and it's only been 2 trailers and plenty of Kevin Feige quotes since. But there's a reason why they left the most powerful Avenger out, and I'm afraid it's because he's dealing with Wasp.
But I mean, if we're going to go back to this opening scene, Loki's death was brutal, for want of a better. I mean, I expected when he was going that he would be finished off with a knife or some kind of object, but to be pretty much strangled to death and have his neck broken, so his eyes were almost bleeding and bulging out of his head, for an opening of your Marvel film, absolutely brutal. I was not expecting that level from this movie. And
he turned purple. Like, which it's like, oh, you think he's survived this time? Like, there's found no resurrections this time, just purple body on the floor.
Yeah.
Part of me kind of wishes they'd have, I don't know if dragged that death out a little bit more, because he was kind of choked on screen for like a minute solid, but it didn't seem like a full emotional sort of build to like the whole Thor and Loki storyline. Maybe they kind of had a moment where he was crying because obviously it was his brother, but maybe some other kind of redemption. It seemed a little bit easy for Loki. Like, he's a very smart character, and I thought he would be a character that knows that Thanos would immediately like grab his hand and like kill him or something. When I saw the trailers, my prediction was that Loki was going to sort of feign an allegiance with Thanos and work for him and be one of those, what was it, children of Thanos, and then get killed later on in the film. I don't know if it was a little bit out of character for Loki to just go in straight with an attack. Or...
I think it's because in Ragnarok he's finally come full circle and he's become the good guy, and I think that's why with the speech where Thor's kind of sort of gimped out and is sitting there waiting, he when Loki says, you know, Loki of Jotunheim, but then he says Odin's son, and that's the kind of indicator that he's come full circle, that he accepts himself as Odin's son, although he's not. And I think what it also showed, which I loved, is that he probably would have killed Thanos, but Thanos had the Tesseract at this point, which held him back. And I think every single time Thanos takes the stone, he uses it for... They demonstrate like the stone's power within him using it. So obviously we get the power stone naturally of him blowing up the ship. That happens before the film starts. The Tesseract, he gets the blue. Obviously we get the reality later. Each stone shows him use it for the reason why he needs it. And then at the end, obviously, we get the big moment. But I also love the fact that the opening scene, you have him versus Hulk. Because you kind of forget Hulk's on that ship, right? And then when the fight happens, it's a great line by Loki, because obviously he famously got battered by the Hulk and was said to him. But it just showed Thanos' power without the stones, without the gauntlet, that he could man for man just batter the Hulk. And I like the fact that that's one scene in that demonstrates his power by going up against the Hulk and winning, killing off Loki, one of the so-called fan favorites of the franchise, and then blowing up a ship and heading to Earth. There's your pre-credits. Like, this is who Thanos is. One scene in, you're done and dusted. You know who he is.
Yeah.
Also,
go on. Sorry. Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say literally the introduction of also the guys who, I can't remember the name. This is Four Horsemen type characters that he's with. I thought, again, all of them played. So, not all of them played the greatest part. I can't remember the guy's name, but the one who starts sticking things in Doctor Strange later was played incredibly well. I don't even know who played him or who was his voice, but it was just superb.
Yeah, he was really creepy, wasn't he? Like, I remember when the trailer first came out, and he was like the one that everyone was talking about, like the weird guy that does the face. Yeah, I thought he was great. I actually really liked the children of Thanos.
That's it.
They don't really get much character, in all fairness, but they're just really cool, and each one has a unique trait about them, which is what I like.
I think when it's Thanos' film, they don't need development. Like, you know, these are glorified henchmen, right?
Yeah.
So let them do their thing. I like the fact that each one meets their match across the film. If that makes sense. But from the opening, I loved Ebony Moore's the creepy shush one, the psychic. I love the fact that he was kind of like the religious guy, like talking, you know, you're all about to die at the hands of Thanos. Like, you are all children. And I loved that weird element, but then when dude gets powers in the film, they didn't big up the fact he's a psychic. This is later on, but he literally just swipes his finger. Then you realize, oh, this guy's a psychic. And then you get a great pairing with him and Doctor Strange and whatnot. I'm jumping way ahead, but I think the Children of Thanos, you know, it was a cool way of doing it as you learn more about them as the film progresses. Not learn more, but you see their traits as it's progressing. But I also like the fact, jumping ahead of them, they're all dead at the end of it. Because now it just means there's only one villain for next year, which is going to be Thanos himself. Yeah. And I think they had to die. And each one goes out in a great way, I think, as well.
Yeah. You mentioned Hulk in the opening scene, and I guess I'm going to be jumping a bit about the place for this as well. I will never, ever trust another Marvel trailer that gets put out.
They were lies.
There's probably a good few scenes that aren't in the original movie, but the one that stands out in my mind is the slow-mo awesome trailer shot running towards camera where you had Captain America, Black Panther, Falcon in the background, and Hulk running towards camera. One of my criticisms is in this movie we don't get much Hulk. You pretty much get him in the opening scene, and then he gains impotence and can't get it up essentially throughout the rest of the movie. You know they're going to save it for the next movie, and there's going to be a great fight with the Hulk in that one, but I'm not going to lie, seeing Bruce Banner just ride around in the Hulkbuster, whilst it was great to see the Hulkbuster again, I kind of just wanted to see the Hulk, and I think that would have been awesome to have seen that.
They must have cut something, because all of the toy releases that have come out regarding that Hulkbuster outfit are Hulk bursting out of said outfit.
Oh, really?
And loads of the toys, pop toys, and just the general rubbishy plastic things as well, are all Hulk actually coming out of the armor. So I'm guessing there was a time where he was certainly going to make an appearance, but yeah.
Because Funko announced the pops today for the next wave, and they've done a Red Skull, Hulk jumping out of Hulk armor, and then like two normal ones. But that was the big moment, because when I saw that merch, I was like, because the film bigs up for that moment at the end of Hulk's going to jump out the armor and he's going to fight.
Yeah.
But I thought I disliked the decision, but the more I've thought about it, the better I think it's, because we've seen Hulk, we've seen him lose. We knew that against a peasant army, he's just going to batter them all because it's the Hulk. So I would much rather they save the big reveal probably for the end of for a moment in the next Avengers film when it'll be the originals teaming up together, and then there'll be the moment. So I think it's very risky, but I think it's just pulled off. That I mean, it's always great seeing Mark Ruffalo. But I think that's a risk that we'll pull off in the future. And if it doesn't work out next year, then obviously it will look worse on this that nothing happened. But they've always kind of said that they said Hulk's having a trilogy, haven't they? That's what they called it with Ragnarok, the 2 Avengers films. So obviously they can't actually do a Hulk film, but they've said like Hulk's got arcs in these, and you can see it more and more now. But it's going to be quite exciting because they're going to big up the Thanos rematch as well, which will be quite something, I think, because their fight was great and it was over so quickly before you knew it.
Sorry, go on, Dave.
No, I was going to say, if we were like in that fight, obviously getting back to what we were talking about, Thor. Since Ragnarok, this changing character, he's amazing in this movie. He is brilliantly funny. He's got great. Chris Hemsworth has great comedy timing. He showed in that awful Ghostbusters film where he stood head and shoulders above every other cast member of how good he could be. But the change they've made in that character now, the way they're writing him, is such a different Thor. I mean, Dark World it's so phoned in. And pretty much, if you try it, I can't watch Dark World anymore. It's a really, really tough watch. It's terribly made, I'm sorry, but it's this new version of Thor he's gone really high up my ranking of favorite characters. I thought he was exceptional from the moment we got him till when he hit the Guardians to when he landed on Wakanda. Awesome and epic all the way through.
Thor's been a weird shift of a character for me, because my favorite Thor movie is the first one. I loved what Kenneth Branagh did with that movie. I loved seeing the world of Asgard, and to me Thor works. I mean, he is a funny character, but himself on Asgard shouldn't be a funny character, because he's a noble king, Norse mythology, all that stuff. The humor comes in when he's the fish out of water on Earth. They kind of ran that into the ground with Thor the Dark World, though I'll agree with you there. I can kind of see what they were building towards with Thor Ragnarok, sort of making it, because it almost felt like he was part of the Guardians of the Galaxy universe in that one. And I didn't really care for Ragnarok because of that change of tone. Thought it was a little bit too comedic. But seeing where that's led on to now, where you do have that great match of Thor with the Guardians, it works now. They're almost on the same level. So when you see Thor teaming up with Rocket Raccoon and going on a little side quest adventure together, it's a match that I never thought would ever come about in these movies, but it works. We've now got a Norse god with a little raccoon. It's amazing.
With his rabbit.
With his rabbit.
I think everyone wanted Stark to meet Rocket, and maybe they will. I'm sure they will. But choosing to give it to Thor was actually so much better. And I think I want to give credit. I mean, Thor the Dark World. I think the world's unanimous agreement that's the worst MCU film. It's just awful. So much so that one of the Marvel producers tweeted on Sunday a picture of them in the office celebrating their win. And the top comment was, why do you have a Thor Dark World poster on display? And the producer actually replied saying, we frame all of our posters from our films. And the guy's like, good. But they needed to revamp the character, because in Age of Ultron, there's a great scene with the hammer, but that's because everyone else is trying to pick it up, and he's criminally underused. And I think making Ragnarok a comedy and almost revamping the Thor character, literally the haircut, everything. Not Chris Evans. There's so many of them. Chris Hemsworth. He genuinely looks like he's having the time of his life in this film, even more so than the very early ones. And I think you're right. But when Thor's on Asgard, he is this serious character, and we do get that. But as he's developed, the more he's off Asgard, not the funny he's being, but it's making him more entertaining. And I want to give credit to Feige for letting Taika Waititi do that, and for the Russo brothers to take it on board. Because that was for one of your big characters to revamp someone of that magnitude is something crazy. It's worked. I think this film has actually benefited it further. I think if I was to rewatch Ragnarok tomorrow, I might even have a better opinion of it because of how these future films are now influencing the old films. And it makes me want to watch Thor 2 less. Just on record, my favorite Thor film is the first one. But
Apart from the bleach blonde eyebrows,
yeah, the very creepy eyebrows. I'm happy. At least Josh Whedon got rid of that one. One of the good things. They were always creepy and wrong. But Thor definitely, I think, in terms of the main, like not Thanos, but I think he's the only character that has a story arc that gets a completed story arc in this film as well.
Yeah,
no one else does, but Thor gets it, and it has the moment of the well, one of the moments of the film for me.
I wonder how many reshoots this movie went through, or sort of like change of ideas, because I guess we admit it now, but remember when that first trailer that got leaked on Twitter from, what was it? Was it Comic-Con that it got leaked from, or something like that? They showed a shot of Thor just sort of floating through space, and we all thought that was going to be the post-credit scene or the ending to Ragnarok, and that's how the Guardians were going to find him. Complete change on that. And I mean, they had all the effects finished on that as far as I can tell, so I don't know how much reworking went into this film, especially with, like, you know, Guardians or Ragnarok or whatever.
And they did the Comic-Con leak trailer, he had two eyes for the Guardian scene, so they shot that one at least twice, unless it was a CGI eye patch, which I don't think they would have done. But it's certainly one of the most interesting parts. You didn't think it would be the most interesting arc, but it was.
I guess, are we going to talk, like, I guess we'll save Wakanda for that one Thor moment that we definitely need to talk about, and I know that, George, that's one of your favorite moments. If we talk about the Guardians now, then, testament to the Russos, and I don't know how much, you know, time they spent with Gunn on this, but the way they wrote the Guardians was completely in keeping with those other films. You would think that Gunn had directed all of the Guardian scenes from this movie. It's always sort of like worrying where they're passing these characters off to different writers, because each writer's going to put their different spin on it. I mean, you look at Waititi with Ragnarok and compare that to the original that we've just talked about. It's a very different character. But everything felt so in keeping, like the fact that they've still got the great, like, 70s music in there. You've got all the mannerisms, you've got all the banter between all of the Guardians of the Galaxy members. And a lot of stuff happens to the Guardians in this movie, to the point where when we get Guardians 3, I have no idea how that movie's going to turn out to be.
It's a strange, you're right, jumping back into the galaxy of the Guardians was perfect. The way the track kicked straight in as the scene started, so you got straight, you knew exactly where you were when that scene started. You knew you were back in a Guardians movie, and the playoff between the characters was superb. Chris Pratt is Star-Lord is exceptional. The joke around him being one sandwich away from being fat was great when he started putting on a deep voice. When he was trying to talk to Thor, getting all jealous was absolutely pitch perfect. You're right; it felt like that could have been out of any Guardians movie, but still fit into this movie. It didn't take me out of that I was watching Infinity War. There was no point where I thought, oh, in Guardians, it doesn't feel right. The tone was still perfect. But yeah, you're right. Absolutely could have been taken from any Guardians film and put right in there. They nailed absolutely those characters.
Yeah, they are. I think it's something that James, when they announced Infinity War, well, not announced, but one of the issues months and months, years ago was that, okay, James Gunn's not doing this. And I was like, I need James Gunn on the Guardians because I don't think it could work without him. It's wrong. And I think James Gunn I think the Russos have been in contact with, like, all the directors from the solo films, talking to them when they're in pre-production. How are you filming this? How was this? I think James Gunn did a bit of script doctoring on the Guardian stuff. So he was they were probably talking with him. He said, yes, they would say that. No, they wouldn't, whatnot. And I think that was probably the hardest thing to translate into the film, was the most non-Marvel film being put in the one with all the Avengers and everyone else. How is it going to work? How are you going to retain it to be Guardians with these guys rather than they're just in this film? And I think they did a great bit of that, and they did something which no one thought they would do, and actually not develop one of the characters, not just a killer, but everyone knows where we're heading. One of the most shocking moment of the film was with a Guardian. It wasn't with a Avenger, which is something else, which was great. And a lot of people are commenting about Star-Lord. For those who haven't seen the Chris Pratt, everything on Instagram he's put, people have been giving him abuse because of Star-Lord. We'll get to that later on.
Quite rightly so.
It was... I loved the minute, and I think the main selling point of the Infinity War was, okay, we've already had the Avengers before. If you took out Guardians of the Galaxy, this isn't really a big event, right? Because you knew that these new guys would get introduced into this film. But bringing Guardians changes the entire the complex of the MCU, because it makes it the cosmic franchise and all that. They got it right, which was the hardest thing they could have done, and I want to praise them for it, because the Guardians are amazing, and I love the Guardians films. I know on this channel, Tate and Chris don't like Guardians 2, but I absolutely adored it, and I still do. And I love the fact we got another version of Groot again. He's a bit older. A bit
Yes,
wiser.
teenage Groot. Playing on all those teenage stereotypes, but it works. I really liked Groot in this one. I guess so, going back to what I said at the beginning, it's nice to see the Guardians with some weight to it and some drama to it. I think if I'm trying to think of other moments from the other Guardians of the Galaxy movies, you had the great opening scene with a young Star-Lord at the beginning of the first movie with his mom. I thought that was very touching, probably one of the most emotional scenes out of any Marvel movie. You had kind of the emotional breakdown of Rocket, if I'm remembering correctly, in the first Guardians movie, where he's reflecting on all the years of, experimentation and everything. But then to me, Guardians 2 kind of missed out on a lot, and it threw a lot of jokes in there. And yes, there was some nice emotional moments with like Yondu and stuff, but it all was undercut with some jokes. This one was straight up drama. I mean, the stuff with Gamora, we knew this was where it was building to anyway, her being the daughter of Thanos, and I don't think they could have capped off that storyline in a more perfect way than what they did in this movie. We can talk about the ending all we want, with all the characters that died being the most shocking moment of the movie, but the one moment that stands out to me in this film is that moment with Thanos and Gamora, and a really delightful cameo from a character I never thought we were going to get again in the MCU, with Red Skull, which was probably the moment where I geeked out the most in this film, if I'm going to be honest.
That was probably one of the best kept hidden secrets. I mean, everyone assumed you'd get the ending right with getting the stones and clicking his fingers, but everyone would occasionally say, "Are we going to get Red Skull in Captain America 3?" I remember people say, "Is Red Skull ever going to come back?" And all this time, they've literally just been like in post-production, just chucking him on this Avengers moment. And it was great. This probably one of the biggest reactions of the cinema. At the midnight screening, people were gasping and going mad. And what was amazing in the second viewing, obviously with the casual fans, I just heard whispers everywhere like Red Skull, Red Skull, Red Skull. Like all these people trying to tell people who they are. And it was a very smart way of tying the original Captain America back into it even more. When he talks about the stones, that actually, we knew his goal in that film was to take over Earth, right? But his actual character goal was to get all 6 Infinity Stones, which actually made it even better.
I love his punishment is the fact that he now has to watch over a stone that he cannot touch in any way. It was, and you're right, that I was one of those who gasped when his reveal of his face came out. I was like, no, because we know the history of this character and how much Hugo Weaving had the Fallout Marvel. He's come out quite clearly and said if he didn't have to, he wouldn't come back to do a Marvel film, even though he's technically contracted in to, I think he said 3 movies, I think, in his story, that he was definitely contracted for 3, but if he didn't have to, he wouldn't have to come back. And now, the way this performance is done, they don't need him.
Yeah. Absolutely. I will be honest, when the camera panned over and there was this thing that, for want of a better word, a ring wraith from Lord of the Rings was standing there in the middle of the screen, I thought they were going to do the Death storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't read the comics. I don't know everything about the character, but one of the things that I do know about Thanos is that he's essentially doing all of this to court Death. He is obsessed with Death. He's in love with her, and everything that he does, it almost sounds like a Bryan Adams song now, he does for her. And when I saw that Ghost of Christmas Past character there, I thought, oh, they're going to do Death now. They're going to establish it. It did feel like a little bit too late, like halfway through the movie. And then as soon as I heard that voice, I was like, that sounds remarkably like Hugo Weaving. And then I saw that Red Skull, and I was overjoyed because I thought it was going to be a plot point we'd never come back to. There are kind of a lot of loose ends with the MCU, especially pertaining to the Incredible Hulk movie, which with Edward Norton, which I don't think is ever going to be reflected on ever again. But it was great. I'm glad it was there. And you know what? In terms of the Death stuff, maybe they'll go into it Infinity War Part 2, but I think they crafted a better motive essentially for the character, because I don't know if that would have been a bit corny going into the whole Death thing, because as symbolism goes, it is kind of just smacking you over the head with a sledgehammer in that regard.
The problem, I mean, I read the original comic years ago when they actually announced this film. Funny fact, from 2013. I despised the Death storyline because you had the most powerful man ever, the most villainous being ever, and he's just trying to impress someone. And I kind of started thinking, this will never, ever, ever work in film. This couldn't work in film. And then obviously they brought the goddess of death, Hela, into Thor Ragnarok. And there were people saying, is she going to be Death? Is Thanos going to try and impress her? Thankfully, they killed her. And thankfully, she wasn't. And then how much worse would it be if the story was him trying to impress someone rather than his own personal story of wanting to eradicate half the universe? the poverty, etc., etc., then I just wanted to impress her. So wherever it go, I just snapped my fingers. He could have snapped his fingers and made her like him, but no, he just chose to wipe out half the universe. So, but the twist with Red Skull was amazing. They actually announced the pop today of Red Skull, and I think Marvel have kept it so secret, right? Because Funko would have had these in development months ago. It's called Stonekeeper, and they've put the hood over some of the face still.
That's cool.
And I genuinely think this is probably the hardest thing they've ever had to cover up. Hugo Weaving, let's be honest, if he hates these films, he would have told everybody he would have been in this.
Mm-hmm.
He's the guy that just wouldn't care. And I'm really happy they didn't bring him back. And I think someone mentioned that he was apparently mocap in this film, which I think visually, I mean, it was hard to tell because it was dark and stuff, but visually it looked a lot better than the Captain America one.
Yeah.
Because I think when it's like, it's a mask and stuff, it looks so weird and like rubbery that it looked quite cheap. So if it is the mocap as it's been rumored, then I think that has benefited the film a lot more.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm always usually a proponent for like, if you can do it in makeup, do it in makeup. And I think that Hugo Weaving was great in that first Captain America movie. Hugo Weaving's one of my favorite actors of all time. I think he's great, but you can kind of tell that when he does like voices for Megatron in Transformers, when he plays kind of a little bit of a dumb villain in a Captain America movie at the time before, like, what Marvel's become, I guess he kind of sees that they're beneath him as an actor. Maybe he's just doing it for the cash. I actually really liked the CGI on Red Skull in this. I thought the texture looked a lot better. He looked a lot more menacing. And as you said, the costume did look very cheap. And that kind of goes for everything in that first Captain America movie, really. I remember really hating the costume in that movie. It did seem like a really cheap Halloween knockoff, especially when we got to the first Avengers movie as well, which was arguably even worse than that first Captain America movie. I'm just looking at the guy who played him in this movie. So Ross Marquand played him.
He's in The Walking Dead, apparently.
Yeah.
I've not seen much about him at all. He's now... If you look him up, he does. You see his like chat shows and talk shows that he's been on. He does a lot of impressions when he's on those shows.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's just one of those things that he's able to do. So I think that's why he's probably been brought in. I mean, he's probably had to audition for the part as well. But if you see his like talk show run, he does a lot of impressions when he's on talk shows.
You reckon they would have told him he was going to be Red Skull? As in,
I think they'd have to, just because of the inflection that guy has on his voice.
Yeah, I meant like for the auditioning and stuff like that. Like, because this film's so secretive. Like, I mean, when you go back to Star Wars, when they were casting Rey, Finn, and all them, they gave them names like John, didn't they, and stuff like that. Like, and your audition was going to be you reading a script of like how was your day and stuff. I wonder, like, now this, because normally with Marvel they're secretive, but not really that secretive.
Mm-hmm.
With this one, they've clearly, I mean, the Thanos demands your silence hashtag. They've gone all out for this not to get spoiled anywhere. Bar Mark Ruffalo, they did a good job. But I just kind of wonder with how, I mean, the production on this, like they filmed in Edinburgh for a couple of weeks, and apparently like they had the entire like city on lockdown. They reckon they had places sealed off like a couple of streets away from where they filmed, just because they didn't want anyone seeing like a minor glimpse.
I mean, not to go to spoilers, but some of it was filled up at Durham Cathedral, literally like 10 minutes drive from my door. And one of my friends bumped into some actors together who are in, must be for the next movie. But yeah, they filmed just down the road at the cathedral, which is not in, I couldn't recognize anything that was in the last movie to suggest that was in the scenes in Edinburgh or anything like that used it for that. So, and the two actors that she saw were not together in this movie either. So it certainly suggests that Durham is to come later. But seeing Waverley Station in Edinburgh was great. I've been to Edinburgh, Waverley loads of times, and to actually see it getting smashed up, you'd recognize the streets in Edinburgh. It was really nice to see, actually.
Oh, that's awesome. We can't get any more gossip, can we? Like who these characters were, or
I can absolutely tell you which characters were together. I'll tell you the two actors who were up here. It was Chris Hemsworth and Benedict Cumberbatch.
Ooh, okay.
Filming together. So they were at Durham Cathedral filming together. So that's what I just kind of said, all right, okay, so you're not in this thing together, so it's definitely for Avengers 4. But yeah, so they filmed just the road. I've got a picture of my friend, and she's literally got a hold of Chris Hemsworth's arm, like she's never going to let go. My friend called it, so it's just like, all right, okay. I met Thor. Oh, you didn't. So yeah, all good. So yeah, so that is to come.
Oh, that's awesome.
But to see see somewhere in the UK. I thought it was an awesome touch, and nothing I expected. And as soon as you saw it, I was like, that's I've been there.
And it's not the usual London's going to get destroyed for this set piece. Like, no, this is Scotland, and this is we will deep fry your kebab, which was the most amazing thing because it lingers there, and you've got enough time to read it, hear the laughs, and then they cut away. It was just amazing in the sign.
Right. I think what we can move on to now. I think we've pretty much said everything on the Guardians storyline, haven't we? Do we want to say?
I think the only thing we've got to go to it all is Gamora, really, her last moment.
Yeah. Definitely one of the most emotional moments. And, you know, I mean, we're saying goodbye to maybe a beloved Guardians character. She's never been one of my favorites, in all fairness, in the Guardians lineup. But even still, to see her go and just the ramifications that had on Thanos himself, like I was expecting that moment that he was just going to like throw her off and be like, yeah, done and dusted, right, give me my stone. But the impact that moment has on him throughout the entire rest of the movie, even to the point where now it was a week ago since I saw this movie, but I think that the vision he goes into in his head at the end still has Gamora in it, if I'm right. And I'm guessing I'm guessing that's going to continue on into the second one as well. I've been reading some comments from people saying that they think Gamora's still alive because her soul is in the Soul Stone. You see her body and you see the green blood splattered on the rock behind her. She's not coming back. She's gone.
That would be the worst death to cheapen probably a film ever. That's a moment where you're right. She's no one's favorite Guardian. She's badass. She's cool. Zoe Saldana's really cool, but she's not Rocket. She's not Groot. She's not Drax. She's not Star-Lord. It's better than Nebula. But
Nebula's torture scenes were cool though as well.
Yeah,
I did really enjoy seeing that, her getting pulled apart like that.
It was like in the Force, like it was when they were stretching them back further. It was amazing. There's your villain there, torturing a robot. And then later on in the film, to call her, you'd have just been a waste of parts if I killed her.
I like how they filmed that as well, like going quickly to Nebula, where they film it front on and then the camera shifts to the left. You see it. I thought that was great how they did that.
I loved it.
Very clever.
I think with Gamora, the scene's been ruined by a meme where if anyone's ever watched
that's everything is.
if anyone's ever watched The Office, there's a brilliant scene in which people are now basically I'm not going to show you the scene. I'll speak off my personal account, but basically, it's literally Thanos' death when someone's like, "What's going on here?" and they'll turn around and just like look at her and give her that sad look, and then she's like, "No," and that's basically Gamora's death. Because what I will say about the actual scene itself, one of the best moments of the film, when she starts laughing, like, "Ha ha ha, you love no one," you know immediately that he does love someone, and because we've had that flashback already, the fact he's saving her, the fact he even says before she dies, you know. You this will be the right place, or else Nebula will die. Even like 10 minutes before, he's still threatening his sister, not her. And you then realize that, you know, when he turned around with the tear down his cheek, well, they're like, this is gonna be absolutely brutal. And full credit to Alan Silvestri. This is without doubt the most powerful use of music Marvel has ever used. I think that's one way of putting it. And it's just a fascinating scene. And then showing her dead as well, that's even more important. Because in this, you got to be sure people are dead. And it was just a great moment. And I think this will be a scene which people talk about for years to come.
Yeah. I want to talk about that balance scene that you just mentioned. That's probably my single favorite scene in the entire movie. I wonder if they did shoot any more to that, but the scene where he's essentially wiping half of her people out, half of the village, and he takes her aside, shields her away from the death and destruction behind, and he has that metaphor of the blade. I thought that was fantastic. Perfectly acted by Brolin as well. And the scene where she's about to turn around and he just pulls at the last minute and the camera pans back and you've just got half the village wiped out. Really, if you're just going by like a single image in the film, that was a really powerful shot, I think.
And I think also going back to because it's like a little red thing, isn't it? Like a double-ended little mini thing. She tries to kill herself with it, and when he turns it to bubbles, that I thought that was just an amazing moment. But that's that little blade's come full circle now.
There's a comment. Oh, go on. Sorry, Dave. Go on.
No, I was going to say again, this is a CGI character, and the way it played that scene, that was where you got the raw emotion out of him. You could see he was losing a daughter, and that to get that from essentially this was born of Jar Jar Binks many years ago. To get to this level now, where I can feel that much for a character who's purple and big on screen, is incredible. It's just amazing to see that, and the tear that ran down his face, and that gave you that emotional weight behind him that you saw more and more that no matter what was going to get in his way, this is what he wanted to do. He has a goal and he's going to get there. And it was that point I knew that pretty much all bets were off with everybody. This is the first sign. Loki going, you're right, was something that everyone kind of knew was probably coming. Once we lost Gamora, I had no idea who else we were going to lose in this movie.
Yeah.
I was convinced we'd lose Nebula and not Gamora. I always thought one of the pair would die, but I did not expect her to be the first Guardian as well. I guess that's one way of putting it too.
Well, Nebula is kind of dropped out of this movie, isn't she? If I remember rightly, there doesn't seem to be any kind of closure to her character at the end of the movie.
Well, the only thing is that she's alive with Tony Stark, and they're the only two. So her goal will be to drop him off back on Earth on her way.
Yeah, I love the comment from Brinsley saying that James Gunn was sweating while watching all of the Guardians die off in this film. I've got to assume that he's tied to this movie somehow, and there's a plan for the next movie. But
that's why they brought Stallone.
Oh my god! If they get Stallone in the main lineup, can you?
What
imagine?
if Stallone comes back for part 2?
Oh god!
And he's talking to Thanos. He's like, "It's not about how hard you hit." Can you imagine? You can picture it now, can't you?
That would be.
They use the time stone to get like Stallone of 30 years ago to fight Thanos man for man.
You need to stop coming up with great movie ideas that are sadly never going to get made because it just makes me
I only want that for the training montage that would have to happen as well. Oh, it would be epic.
I just really like, can the poster just be like a recreation of the Cobra poster, just like Crime is a Disease, Meet the Cure? I need that movie in my life.
Oh, the gun, the glasses. Oh my word, that would be the best thing ever.
And the fan fiction writers are straight to the keyboards.
Next reboot starring Josh Brolin.
But yeah, no, I was thinking about that when like Gamora was dying, like where is this going to leave Guardians 3 now? Like, how's Star-Lord going to pick himself up after this? And of course, we've got Infinity War Part 2, so we'll see from that. This might be jumping ahead a bit, but I know that we are going to move on to the next. We've got so much to talk about still. The New York and Titan storyline. Star-Lord has probably become my most loathed character in the entire MCU as of right now. If he'd have just waited one more minute, yes, we wouldn't have had a movie. Yes, we wouldn't have had that cracking ending to the film, but it is kind of really infuriating as to what he did. I guess do we want to pass over to the New York Titan storyline now, or? Yep.
I think New York's a good one to go to. Now we've rewind to the 3rd minute of the film. I mean, I think the biggest thing of New York is we've got Spider-Man. Off all the trailers, you knew you're going to get the Wizards meet Iron Man and Spider-Man. That's the main thing. They did a good job of protecting the fact that Hulk was there. Really cool moment of him crashing into I don't know the name of the place, but basically Baker Street, but the American version where Doctor Strange now lives. Immediately, there's Hulk meeting Doctor Strange, and now they can go meet Iron Man off the go. Brilliant. And then the action literally kickstarts. Iron Man gets told who's Thanos and what about him. We get the Infinity Gauntlet description for those that haven't seen the previous 17 films. And then we probably get some of my favorite sort of interaction moments. I mean, the best thing about the first Avengers was everybody meeting everyone for the first time. There is nothing in terms of ego or probably quality in this film and dialogue of Doctor Strange and Iron Man together. They are amazing, and it makes it even better that they are the two Sherlocks. If only someone could have picked up on that and made a joke, it would have been cheap, it would have been easy, but it would have been perfect. I loved those two together on screen, and the New York subplot was great because you go in straight away, you get a big action scene, and then it goes straight to space, straight to time. There you go, no dilly-daddling, straight in there.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
No, so carry on. That was...
For the beginning of the film with Doctor Strange and I forgot his name.
Wong.
That's really bad. Wong. I was really, because the script there seemed really, there was a lot of the back and forth going on, and it wasn't gelling with me. I was like, oh god, this movie could be, if it sticks like this, it could be really bad. Whether talking about what they're going to order from like Subway or something, isn't it? Or like a sandwich store they haven't been to. I thought this is going in a really bad territory. But no, it was great seeing Doctor Strange again. I actually really like the Doctor Strange movie. I've only seen it once, but watching this movie again, I really want to go back to it at this point. But what I said, like at the beginning, like I was amazed at how quickly they just throw you straight into it with the whole New York stuff. That big world-ending machine. I remember when I was doing my reaction videos, I was like, oh, that's going to be the end goal. They're going to have to take that down within the first 15, 20 minutes, and it's done, and we move on. Like, it's great. It was completely changed my expectations with the whole, with not just the entire movie, but especially the New York stuff.
And I love that it wasn't just an attack on New York and everything's destroyed again. It literally was like, we're going to fight in like 2 streets, and now we're gone.
Yeah.
So it was not this massive destruction again, because I think that would have been a cheap, again, easy move to do. Like, oh, loads of New York's destroyed. What happened? We've seen that so many times in so many movies. It was just nice for them to go straight off, and you're right, straight into space, and off they go on this adventure away to break them off. So they've got this adventure away from obviously Captain America and the rest of the guys.
And, and I think with that comes the fact that, you know, there is no big battle. The children of Thanos, they're going there to get the stones, and then they're leaving. Like, goodbye, get the stone and go. I love the fact that we saw Doctor Strange not just talking, but when you watch Doctor Strange, I love Doctor Strange. I think it's very underrated, and I think it's the film that caught a lot of people off guard. But we finally we know he's powerful in that film, but when the film is wizards fighting wizards, you don't get a sense of how powerful they are. Put him in a street in New York with the other Avengers, and the stuff we get to see is just amazing, because we don't really get to see him fight properly in that, whereas this, like, it must have been so fun for them filming on set, like pretending to have all these like hand gestures.
So I was like, it reminded me of Last Airbender, where they're like striking poses, like Power Rangers or something.
I absolutely loved it, and it was really cool to see he got a match with Ebony Moore, where the psychic, they're having their battle with each other. You can't take this off Dead Wizard. The cape, his cape, that is his cape, isn't it? It's got a name or something. But their fight scenes were really well done, and then obviously they had to introduce Tom Holland's Spider-Man, who, in all credit, right. So the background to this is that I liked him in Civil War, and I despised him in Homecoming, and this film was make or break for me with Tom Holland. I did like him in this, and now I'm trying to figure out my opinion of Spider-Man. Do I like him in short bursts, or do I feel that the Russos are the only ones that have actually done him properly so far? Because in Homecoming, he's unbearable. And in this, they introduce the kid that loves his films and stuff, and then they basically say, no more pop culture references, please stop. And then it does, and then we get a bit more of a character from him. Maybe a bit more of a character, I don't know, but he's certainly more bearable in this film than the other ones.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think it's because the other one was so tied to, I want to be Avenger, please let me be an Avenger. Please, Mr. Stark, I want to be an Avenger. And, oh, it's also a Spider-Man movie, the end, goodbye. This one, he actually felt like he was being Spider-Man. It's not quite there. It's not quite where I want the Spider-Man character to be, and maybe it never will be, because we've talked at nauseum about the Sam Raimi trilogy, how Tobey Maguire is always going to be everyone has their own Batman, everyone has their own Superman. It's going to be the same with me with Spider-Man. I just saw Dave roll his eyes. That's amazing. Yeah, I will say I didn't mind him in this movie. I wasn't over keen, but he wasn't unbearable, as you said, like he was in Homecoming.
Yeah, and at the end, he probably has the most powerful moments of the end scenes. Well, I will say that I may have ruined that for my entire cinema on the first viewing, where I started laughing and then shouted out, Tobey Maguire's coming back. But we can all dream.
Well, we do have the reality stone. Like, let's make Tobey Maguire a reality. Let's bring him back into this. Let's
use the time stone.
The perfect thing for that now is, I think Tom Holland himself said in an interview that he should play Uncle Ben. Tobey Maguire should be Uncle Ben in the line. That's exactly what happened. Tobey Maguire was a great Spider-Man, not a great Peter Parker, maybe.
No, I think he was the best Peter Parker, but because he felt like the geek and stuff. He felt like that loser, that one with no friends. You know, he got pizza time. His Peter Parker was beautiful.
You're right. 1 and 2. I despise 3 for everything it was.
Wait, so we're saying Tobey Maguire for Uncle Ben? Like, if he's like married to Marissa Tomei, like, he is batting way above his average.
And he's a very young Uncle Ben as well.
You've seen his emo dancing? Of course he's not. No, I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think it's now the first time, at least, we've had him pitched at a perfect age for a young Spider-Man. Obviously, Garfield was okay. I thought he was actually really good as Spider-Man, but a pretty terrible Peter Parker. But I really like Tom Holland as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I think it's pitched. I think you're right. There wasn't enough of a Spider-Man film in Homecoming. It was very much another event. like a half Avengers movie, like Avengers Point 5, and this did feel much more like a Spider-Man I could be down with as well. So I agree with that. I thought the new introduction of the suit was really good. The nanotechnology that went on him, I really liked that. I love the extra arms, things like that, and the way he kind of was trying to save, was totally trying to get rid of him. The parachute off the ship, and he still clung on. And the fact he got to make it cool. Again, he did make the pop culture reference of the. Anyone see the old movie Aliens? And the way they killed off Ebony. Is it Ebony Moore? Ebony. Ebony Moore, whatever his name is. The way they killed off him by doing exactly did in Aliens and stuck him right out that ship. I thought it was a really nice move as well.
It's the only way you can kill him as well. Like, he's a psychic man.
Yeah.
And now he's just freezing in space. Also, he sounded a lot like Paddington.
It's Ben Whishaw. That's what I was saying. It sounded
you said it to me, and I started thinking, I knew he sounded familiar. The guy that did the mocap apparently did the voice as well. But now someone said it's Ben Whishaw. The character's ruined because I only see Paddington Bear upgraded.
Did like someone feed Paddington after midnight or something?
There's the Paddington 3 right there.
Paddington 3 is the origin one where like they like eliminate half of the Paddington Bears and Thanos takes this one home.
So much marmalade is the title. Paddington 3, so much marmalade.
I guess we move to Titan then, right? I'm trying to think of like anything that happens.
To be honest, yeah, I think that's kind of is New York. You kind of get on the ship, you get that. I mean, it's obviously cut between quite a few scenes where you get Guardians and story, and the torture of Doctor Strange is really cool. That he's firing glass objects into him to try and make him give up the stone. But it's a really quick fight once it's done. Their story seems to move very quickly to get them to Titan.
Yeah.
There's not much story behind it. It's like, we're on the ship, we're having a battle, he's gone, let's get to Titan.
Yeah.
So it's all the very quicklies.
When we do get to Titan, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I mentioned this in the spoiler-free review, but the special effects in this movie are outstanding. However, there are some that are very noticeable, and I think that Titan, it was kind of unavoidable. When you've got all these characters from Earth on Titan, it is very green screeny. I don't know if it was the lighting, because it's a very bright, visually overexposed planet. There didn't seem to be much depth between the character in the foreground and the background itself. And it did look like everyone was just in a green room. So it didn't ruin the film for me, but there's a lot of moments like that, especially in those moments where it does get very effects heavy. And I don't know how. It's mostly when the characters have got the mask off. When you've got a fully CGI character fighting another CGI character in a CGI background and the entire thing's filled with computer graphics, it's not too bad. It's mostly those shots where you've got Spider-Man without his mask on, or you've got Tony Stark with the helmet down, that I really noticed it in those scenes. Yeah,
I think especially as it was like getting further and further, the more time you spent on Titan, the more noticeable it was slowly becoming. It was quite hard to notice in the first viewing because it was 3D, the screen was darker, but it was very noticeable when I saw it again in 2D. And it doesn't distract you to take you out of it, but you do sit there thinking green screen background. Especially when you get to the sort of the other scenes where you know Wakanda, that's been filmed on location and stuff, and when they're cutting between areas and you get this one that's really noticeable, then it kind of does look very funny and very distant.
And I don't know how much of that is that. I mean, I don't know how the effects company works, who do the Marvel films. Like, I get there's got to be some things you've got to put more money, more time into. You've got to get Thanos looking great every single time, and they do. So I don't know if it's a matter of priority. Like, maybe some backgrounds in some shots don't get as much time or attention, or maybe they run out of time. Like, I know with like Peter Jackson with Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit films, like sometimes they are very down to the wire, even like a couple of weeks before release. So I don't know if that's the case with this movie. I don't know if also with them doing Black Panther, if they were rushed, if they've got some of the team working on Black Panther effects and some of the ones doing Infinity War, because some of these effect shots in this, especially with Thanos, I'm guessing you've got to put months in, maybe even like a year in, to get it looking as top notch as it does. I don't know.
I think especially you're right, when they're doing multiple projects at the same time, you've got people doing graphics on one thing, one on the other, and it does build. But I think Thanos, you can imagine like there's probably like one studio just set to doing Thanos' CGI for the entire day. Not entire day, but the entire production process.
And when you see how far the character of Thanos has come, if you watch that post-credit scene at the end of Avengers again, Even if you look at that one scene of him on the throne in Guardians, like what they've done with that character now and how good they've got him looking. I think that Thanos, maybe that was another reason they didn't bring him into it. I think Thanos was an ongoing process. I think maybe when they put him in the post-credit scene, it was sort of like, you know, putting all their eggs into one basket, like, oh, we might get to this character one day. They hadn't really quite got him down. They got Josh Brolin, but they hadn't quite got the character down how they wanted or know exactly what they wanted to do with him in Guardians. But then by Infinity War, they've absolutely nailed it.
I think in Guardians, Josh Brolin was, I think he must have been hired around that point and he was just the voice.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, the motion capture, Thanos looks like Josh Brolin as well. And I think that's another big difference, that he looks quite human. But even in the Age of Ultron credit scene, when Thanos says, I'll do it myself, he looks very, very CGI there, whereas now he looks more like a character. I think that does come down to Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
And you're right, the good CG then unfortunately does make the not the bad CG, but the lesser CG stand out a million times more. You're right, it looked very green screen on Titan. And you kind of, once you kind of accepted that, it was more like, all right, that's kind of green screen, and it kind of blended okay then with your eye as you're watching it. But yeah, it's still great. It's got some great moments in Titan.
Yeah.
It really is. Apart from, Chris Pratt.
Do we talk about the fight now?
Let's talk about the fight. Go on.
I love the fact that they're all sitting there doing plans and Doctor Strange is just chilling like 14 million visions down the line. And here's the one we win. I loved that they had a plan. I loved that the plan was working perfectly. And I love even more that people assume that Doctor Strange hadn't foreseen Chris Pratt ruining it. Doctor Strange said, I know I'm jumping ahead. He said, if I'm picking between saving you or the boy or the universe, I pick the universe. I think he's only given up that Infinity Stone because he's seen the future and he knows that Iron Man is a part of the end game and Thanos needs the gauntlet. He's the most unbothered that he's about to evaporate as well. That's really jumping ahead though, but Doctor Strange was the standout in the Titan scenes. When you get to his battle with Thanos, even further jumping ahead again, when they kind of put not the Doctor Strange theme, but the mystical soundtrack on, you kind of get this build up like this is going to be fucking amazing. And he has some of the best moments. I loved the choreography of the fight, everyone using their powers for individual moments. And then I love Thanos waking up and destroying a planet or a moon and throwing it at them out of pure anger. Now that was something.
That was like that old EU bit, right, with Chewbacca, where like a moon just like crushes him. Like, that's what it reminded me of. And Iron Man just took that moon like a champ. It was nice to see like Mantis actually being useful as well, because she always struck me as a character. She's a fun character. I like the character of Mantis, but in the grand scheme of things, is she relevant, really? Apparently, they made her useful in this fight, though.
Right at the end, the last 10 seconds of the fight.
Yeah.
He's like,
waiting for a moment.
He's he's got a like locked up summer. Like, don't worry, I'll whiz you in at the last second. Literally.
Yeah.
I also loved at that point where he is captured. They've got him. They're trying to pull a glove off his arm. No point in everything. Should we just cut off that arm? We'll probably get that fine. Credits done. Thank you very much.
You know that's going to be on a moment on like how it should have ended right now.
It
like,
really will be like, yeah, we've got him.
Yeah.
Let's pull the glove off really slowly. Done. Thank you very much.
They don't want to maim him, like, you know. They just sort of like
no Thanos was harmed in the making of this movie. But yeah, it seemed crazy that was their plan. We'll get him captured and we'll just pull his glove off his hand. Of course, that's not going to work.
Like, I can only just imagine like the gauntlet must have been so tight on his arm that it cut off circulation, and that's why they were having such a hard time taking the glove off. Maybe
that's why it was actually purple. It was just
my favorite
normal colored hand.
When Star-Lord's shouting, "What did you do to her?" in the background, you can just see Iron Man and Spider-Man like pulling like just like this together. It's so funny because they're trying to have this really dramatic moment in the background. They're just like trying to like pull off a glove.
And Thanos is just like, here, pull my finger. Like,
he looked so funny when he was like half asleep. Like, he looked even more like Bruce Willis. And like, it was just the way like he was there, like just making noises, like, it's like, oh, it's Die Hard 5.
Oh, don't.
But in that moment, I can't forgive Star-Lord. Like, I know that the guy was like rage-filled and wanted revenge. Guy had to wait like a minute like just to take that glove off, and then he could have got all the revenge he wanted. I think you argued that at the end of Guardians 2, like he's very hot-headed, like when he finds out that revelation about his dad, like he's straight into the attack. I get it. I get that's kind of his character, but when he realizes what's at stake, if he'd have just waited, it's really frustrating as a viewer. I get why they've done it for the narrative purposes, but like I don't think there's any coming back from Star-Lord now. Maybe it'll make him be a bit more sensible in fights and wait it out for the future of like Guardians of the Galaxy, but would that take away from the character of Star-Lord? And you know, that is essentially what the character is. He's a hothead.
Brimsley's ruined the film. All Doctor Strange needed to do was cut off his arm with a portal.
I take back everything I've said about this film. It's a piece of shit. It's just like plot holes left, right, and center.
There are moments where it could have literally finished, and you think, "Oh, all right." Now you start seeing them as you talk about them, like, "Yeah, that was stupid." And also, when Star-Lord's just made his move, and you're right, Spider-Man and Sony and Iron Man have stood just behind him, and Spider-Man is ridiculously strong. It would have taken him a flick of his arm to punch Star-Lord out of the way of doing that. And then go back. Now I'll go back the glove.
I wonder if Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet is like this one, and like if you look inside the mechanism, there's like a handle, and really he was holding it all along.
Hold of it.
It's not actually his fingers. He's
I
got
really
one
want
arm.
him to have like that baby hand from Scary Movie 2. You know, like the guy with the
full of mashed potato. Yeah. Oh, it'd be great.
It's like, how is he going to click his fingers now? Oh no. It's a moment that had to happen because it's a film. I think it is a funny moment, and it will go down as one of the funniest side of things. But I love the fact that we got to see them all beating him in theory. But I also love the fact that we then got him fuming and just being evil. Mm-hmm. It was one of my, I think, no, it's so hard. I keep saying it's one of my favorite scenes. It wasn't because there were so many other great scenes, but that you felt that the stakes were there, and you thought, okay, I can't wait for Thanos to wake up and obliterate them. And I don't want to say I'm disappointed that he didn't kill some of them. Like, he uses the purple stone and they all get kind of knocked out in space. And then it's a great line by Peter Parker saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know what are your names yet." And I thought that was a really good moment because there is so many of them. Mm-hmm. But it led to a good fight scene, and inevitably when Doctor Strange does the I'll give you the stone. Well, even before when Iron Man was about to die,
yes, yeah,
you can see it coming, like the build up where it's 1-on-1 now. He's fighting him. They fight, and you think, oh shit, like is he going to really kill Iron Man? Iron Man's the one we all assume that's going to die in this film, and I've said every time to you guys, Iron Man will die in part 1, and he won't do a sacrifice. He will just die in a normal fight with Thanos. And when he stabbed him, like my body just went icy. Like I just froze, just sat there staring in disbelief. Like, have we got another Han Solo? It wasn't as brutal as Han Solo. I cried the minute the blade went on. I mean, it's been 10 years, not 30 years, right? But but with Iron Man's death, not death. Basically, I was shocked. I was annoyed, but I wasn't annoyed because I was like, Iron Man's alive. Like, I didn't expect him to make it to part 2.
Yeah.
But then the fact that Doctor Strange given up the stone, I'm sat there thinking like he's seen the vision. He knows what's going to happen. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, which we'll get to later on, it means that we will get Iron Man in part 2 with the originals.
I think Tony Stark put in like God mode cheats in this one because we talked about the moon and he just shrugs it off like it's nothing. Guy gets stabbed and then he just squirts some kind of spray on it and he's like,
it's Wakandan technology, man.
I don't care what it is. It was dumb. I think that Tony Stark should have died in this movie, sir. I think it would have been, well, I can't be that mad because I mean half the cast died anyway, so at least some people died.
What?
But
Oh yeah, sorry.
He fell asleep for the last 2 minutes. That's he remembers it's all stabbing him.
I think that Iron Man probably should have gone in this movie. Like, it built up to that moment, and it was just literally like, shh, and it was done, and then we move on.
I think if part 2 is the way, I think it's going to go. If their goal for part 2 was to have the original Avengers return to all die together, then they get a free pass on keeping Iron Man alive. If they don't do that for whatever reason, then I think it will come back to should have gone in part 1. Yeah. So I think I will be able to judge it in like a year tomorrow.
I want it to be like that moment from the end of Toy Story 3 where they're going into the furnace and they all like link hands and they all get pulled into like a fucking black hole or something. I don't know.
That'd be quite dramatic, to be fair. Or just Thanos kills them one by one.
Well, that's actually, I said that Tony Stark should have died in this movie, but now I think about it, one of the big sort of like plot threads they haven't tied up yet is the fact that Tony Stark can't make that call after following the events of Civil War. He can't just even pick up the phone and talk to Captain America again. And I think that's pretty much what part 2 is all going to be about. It's going to be them reconciling, and then it will be a farewell. Whether both of them are going to die, whether it's just going to be one of them, I don't know. But I think maybe that's probably what they're leading to, and that's why they chose to keep him alive.
I just can't if Iron Man say, "Where's Bucky?" He's like, he evaporated. I'm like, good. He killed my mum. That's exactly what happened.
Like a spiteful child.
That's probably still the best moment of Phase 3 is, did you know?
Yeah.
But no, Iron Man, I mean, coming into this plot point, like we'll get to it, but Iron Man and Nebula are the only remainers. So they're going to have a side quest, but I guess that wraps up everything until we get to Wakanda.
Yeah, I think we should just go on to Wakanda right now. Are we going right back to like
Vision and Cap?
Yeah, I guess we have to, right?
I guess in theory we need to, yeah, because it's kind of important.
So I was trying to remember where we'd last seen Vision. I was actually kind of weird seeing Paul Bettany again, but then I remembered that he can like apparently shapeshift now, can't he? It's been a while since I've seen those previous Marvel movies.
He's fully evolved Pokemon now. He started as AI, as Jarvis, then he's become Vision. Then he's become Vision with no Infinity Stone and just casually in the street. He looks really familiar. Like I know he got cast as like Prince, the Queen's husband. I forgot his name. He originally got cast as him for that Crown TV show, but he's had to quit because of scheduling conflicts, which is ironic because I don't know what he's doing now. There's no Solo or Avengers, but there's something about him. But I don't know if it's weird because I saw him as a human or just he looks so familiar that he looks like someone I know. Because I've seen him in a load of things, like, you know, he's done a lot. He's done a lot, to be fair to him, but there was something that he looks really creepy as a human in this Marvel film.
And I think since we'd seen the trailer, we all knew that it was going to be a very tragic end for this character in some way. Not quite how the trailer showed, but yeah, poor Vision in this movie just kind of get shit on the entire movie, really, doesn't he? It is kind of, I'm jumping like far to the end now, but like I do think it was kind of a bit meandering his story in some parts, in that he gets like stabbed, he gets injured, and we've got to save Vision. We've got to get him saved. So eventually, like when we get him to Wakanda, he's healed, he's back on the battlefield, and within 2 hits, he's stabbed again and is in exactly the same state as he was beforehand. Like, so
you love that they put him in a last life status where he's flashing slightly, like a comic, like literally like a computer game character, just on a flashing. I'm almost dead. I'm almost out of power.
Yeah,
but yeah, it didn't have a great deal to do other than make Scarlet Witch cry and stuff.
Yeah, and also like going back to that bit at the end. So when she eventually gets onto the battlefield, she like kind of immediately turns the tide of the battle, and they do throw a line in the script like, "Why didn't we get her in the battle to begin with?" And I don't know if that's a good thing that they acknowledge that, or if they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot there, that they're bringing up their own plot hole, that she should have been on the battlefield from the beginning. Also, like the moment where she's really concerned about Vision and everything like that, and then yet she still had time for a strategic costume change before she got onto the battlefield of Wakanda.
I watched this in honor of you.
Okay.
I've had to ruin your experience.
Okay.
She changes between leaving. Like, they don't go to Scotland. Where do they go to when they have that chat with General Ross when they meet War Machine?
Oh, yeah.
Avengers Plaza, whatever it is.
Yeah, so between there and Wakanda, she gets changed. And I checked purely for Chris. She's the same costume on the battlefield as she does upstairs.
I will take 1 tally mark off the plot holes. Fair play.
I literally sat there because when you told me, I was like, Tron was like, how did he notice that? So I spent like, George, what was your opinion on the second viewing? She didn't change the costume. It was funny though.
Yeah,
but it's true that like the joke is with themselves. But I think, I mean, we're jumping way ahead, but they needed her to stay in that room. But like, no, they didn't need her to. But when she jumps out, it's their plan to get around the battlefield to then send them up. I did like that, but we'll get to that during the big battle. Yeah,
definitely. I try to think where we can talk about now, because I really wanted to talk about the end with Vision with the whole time stone, but we're gonna save that for the very end of it. I guess that you did need some kind of. It seems like a studio mandate now that you need some kind of love story in there somewhere. And I'm so glad they did away with the whole Mark Ruffalo and oh god, Scarlett Johansson one, because that was going nowhere. Since Age of Ultron, that was going absolutely nowhere. I was actually shocked that they even brought it up again in Ragnarok a little bit. So whether that's going to come into it in part 2, I really hope not, because that just seemed really out of place even when Age of Ultron came out.
I think this is Kevin. No, I don't want to slag off. Arguably, the worst bit of continuity they ever had was setting up a kind of Black Widow, Captain America romance angle in Winter Soldier for 6 months later for her to be in love during the first fight scene with Hulk. I liked the little reference in Ragnarok in terms of continuity that worked, but they just had to get rid of it for this film, and I'm happy they did. And just the simple one line, "Oh, this is awkward."
Yeah.
Forgotten to move along.
It was excellent, that line.
Echoing the entire sentiment of the audience in that moment, I'm sure.
It was just really nice to get back to Wakanda as well. That whole setting takes you straight, because obviously with it being such a fresh movie in people's minds as well, it felt really nice to go back. And I love the opening segment of where they said, when I thought you were opening at Wakanda, this is not what I imagined. Maybe the Olympics or Starbucks. As Captain America arrived.
I loved it. Although it hasn't even been 3 months.
I was going to say, it's like, I'm sure it's still probably playing in some theatres. Like
you can see it during the day still, yeah.
It's now overtaken The Last Jedi in the box office. It's now the 9th highest grossing film of all time. Probably until next week when Avengers takes it, so it'll drop back to 10th. But yeah, I mean, imagine thinking a year ago, or even January this year, that Black Panther would outgross The Last Jedi.
Sorry, I was going to say culturally, Black Panther is a phenom, and it is a film that will be studied in many a film class for years to come in talks of equality and the way of representation. And I think that has really driven it on. And you know what? It's an exceptionally good film as well, which really helps.
I love Black Panther. I know Chris isn't the biggest fan.
It's hashtag CGI Rhino. Like at the end, that's like the best part of that movie.
I think I did like the fact the final battle was in Wakanda though. Like,
yeah,
because can you really do New York again? Like,
I was worried by the trailers in that moment where you do have like another faceless army that they've got to face down. In the first movie, you had the Chitauri. The second movie, you had the Ultron drones, and then this one we've got like these lizard things, which I don't know if I need to watch it again, but they don't seem to have much context. Like they just kind of
they jump out of ship and they run through walls and fight.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind it. I think because we had the children of Thanos, they were the kind of the mini villains, if that made sense. I mean, they literally said, they're just killing themselves to try and get through. That's their purpose. Where you knew what they were, although they look creepy, look like Venom. The battle itself wasn't any special. It was really cool seeing everyone lining up together, seeing the Jabari clan with the classic M'Baku chants. It was really cool, the build up to it. And then you got that brilliant shot of just Captain America and Black Panther just flying away from everybody else in the fight. It was a good battle, because let's be honest, if you put an army in front of the Avengers, they're going to win. They can only be beaten by Thanos or major villains. So putting the children of Thanos in there, it made for some great villain fights. You got a really cool like sort of triple threat or 3-in-1 handicap with a Okoye, Scarlet Witch, and Black Widow. I absolutely loved that. Hulk in the Hulk, Banner in the Hulkbuster costume. I loved that. I did think he was going to jump out, and I think he probably was originally meant to, especially with his final battle being the big guy as well he was up against. But part of me likes the fact that he didn't come out, because he did kill him using his brain. Just ripped his arm off and sent him into a jetpack up there. I don't know, the final battle, I don't want to say it was underwhelming, because it was crossing over between Titan and this. You had a boss battle there, and you had the army battle here, because they're just there to protect Vision. And I think it worked to that degree. But to me, there's the defining moment in this, which is when Thor's story overlaps. Now, I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead.
No, I think we're perfectly well in that battle of whereabouts that came in. But and maybe we... sorry, I was going to say, maybe we just jump back to just before Thor jumped in. Maybe one of the best surprise people out in this film who I had no idea was in it, Peter Dinklage as the giant dwarf. Bravo. Bravo.
If that's not an oxymoron, then I don't know what is.
No, I know.
I think I am one of the few that I think liked it. I knew Peter Dinklage was in the film. We all knew he would. And there was rumors he was going to be playing the dwarf that builds Thor's weapons. Well, you can assume why. And I didn't mind that he was a giant dwarf. But when it's Tyrion Lannister with a slightly deeper British voice than Tyrion Lannister, it was kind of, he's like, I've got no hands. And I was there like, okay. And every single line felt so overly dramatic that, I don't know, like I didn't mind it. I loved forging the weapon. That was amazing, that scene. But like I felt that Peter Dinklage was wasted. I would have literally just rather took him as a like, oh my god, I'm a dwarf, all my family and friends are dead. I'd rather be a drunk dwarf like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But it just felt like really easy work for him, that he just literally try and have a deeper voice than Thor. I love the fact that he was like a giant dwarf as well. That was a really cool twist. But I think I'm one of the only few that wasn't really bothered by him, and it was a bit
like the moment of Thor going to hold open the gates, and he was told that's suicide, only if it kills me. And then no, that's it's just perfectly played.
I do kind of feel bad for Dinklage at this point. Don't get me wrong, like the guy's an Emmy-winning actor, he's a great actor, but since Game of Thrones now, he will always, forever and always be typecast as Tyrion Lannister. I think that's always going to be the way. When he was in Days of Future Past in the X-Men movie, he was Tyrion Lannister
with a mustache and American accent.
Yes.
In this though, like he has the voice, he has everything. It actually looked like they dragged him off set from season 7. Like, can you just do a couple of days here? And I don't know if it's just me, but it just felt really unnecessary for him to have an even like deeper voice than he does before. Yeah. It was cool seeing him though in a Marvel film, but I love the concept of the star that powers the weapons, and that's how Thanos got the gauntlet. I actually really like that. Yeah. That was a nice, neat bit. You know, how would he get the gauntlet? Can he just grab another one? Well, nope, because he built it and then chopped off his hands, which they look like they've been more like sort of melted together than they had like chopped off.
It's like the rock biter from Neverending Story. They look like a big hand, don't they?
There's a deep cut. Excellent. Brilliant.
I knew he was going to be in the movie, Peter Dinklage, but as I was watching the movie, I kind of forgot that he was going to be in the movie. So when he showed up as a giant dwarf, it did kind of go like, whoa, take me out of the movie for a second. But there's so much other stuff going on in the movie that it didn't really detract from the movie. Maybe it went on for a tad too long. Maybe they could have streamlined his part down a bit, but it's just a means to an end to get Thor his new weapon. And by God, that new weapon. And I know, George, you definitely want to talk about this scene.
Right, so this is a moment, maybe one of the greatest moments in the cinematic history of. You've got a really good score happening in this film, and you're getting the build-up, and you know the score's good when they put Thor's sound effect of his hammer dropping, and it was the build-up of forging the weapon, him in the star, the most OP guy. Groot sacrifices his arm to be the thing that I really love that. Like, he's like teenage Groot, but like he's making like tree noises from being burnt from when he's trying to pick up this weapon. But it was just the moment where Thor's hand twitches with the sparks. And then it cuts to Wakanda. And then it just starts to fight. And you don't think he's going to come in. You just think, oh, okay, like they're going to carry on fighting. Like this is what Seema earlier. And then we're getting battered. You know, like, oh, it's the usual fight that it's all going to go wrong. And then something's going to happen. But my assuming of happened, I didn't think it was going to be the power of the Bifrost. And I think, going back to earlier, when he said this is the power of the Bifrost in this weapon, you knew this is going to be a big deal. But when Thor, the Avengers theme really kicks in, the Bifrost comes down, and Thor is there with bloody Rocket, Groot, and it's just the simple "Bring me Thanos," the scream. It's with easily the best scene of the film, the best moment of the film. It was so good, I peed myself on the second viewing. Literally, I was at the cinema, I knew what was coming, and obviously when it's the first viewing, you're stuck in that trance. The second one, I was so buzzing for this scene to happen again. And then, like, I literally said that. I was like, shit, I need a piss. Like, I'm genuinely really excited. And obviously I held it and I was right.
It's like a little bit of wee came out. Just like
a little bit.
It was, but that moment, they're like, this is what you're at the cinema for. This is what you want to see. And there's nothing like that. And I think it was like, even like Hulk Bush, and haha, you're all screwed now. And then we got, again, some of the amazing stuff where they're, you know, Rocket with Bucky. He just uses him as like a turret.
I'm getting that arm.
It's. I think honestly, like, yes, we know it's Infinity War, but that's a better moment there. That's an Avengers moment that you just didn't ever feel in Age of Ultron.
In a weird side tangent as well, like I know me and you have both been playing this game, but the fact that Thor has an axe now, we've both played the new God of War game, and if anyone knows anything about that game, the axe is the most awesome weapon in that game, so there's definitely a crossover there going on.
You literally just, on Go, you just throw the axe, press the retrieve button, and it comes back to his arm. Yeah. And it's sometimes I'll throw it, walk for like 2 minutes, then retrieve it for the satisfaction of waiting 10 seconds.
I guess this. Oh, go on. Sorry, Dave.
No, I was going to say that the Thor moment is just, again, it's one of my favorite as well. I think it was just that the Bifrost hit, and you just think, oh, here we go, and the way he just wipes out so many of those rubbishy alien creatures really quickly. It builds up ready for the final battle, and kind of builds up to the final moment. Thor has this really big moment coming up.
Yeah. Hats off to Silvestri as well. Like, we've talked about him doing the soundtrack already, but like, he has by far surpassed himself in terms of his Marvel outings. I won't say it's as good as the Back to the Future soundtrack. Like, that will forever and always have like a place in my heart, but by God, it's epic in this, and emotional as well. And speaking of epic and emotional, I think that's a good enough segue to talk about the ending itself. Where do we even begin with this thing? For me, like, when I knew it was building to something special, when it was that slow-mo segment of everyone trying to take him on, and Thanos is just like backhanding everyone. All these great heroes that have had like trilogies of their own, that have beat like villains above the odds, all of them are just falling to the wayside. That is how you give weight to your villain. That's how you show your villain having power. And the fact that Marvel, Disney had the balls to go with an ending like this. Disney are a very safe company, especially as of late. But to see them take these kind of chances with this ending was truly remarkable to watch.
What the moment that you start using that time stone to get the stone back with Vision, that was when it really starts kicking into full gear. And then just to rip it out of Vision's head, and Vision is then this grey lump on the side, just on the floor. That's Vision done, I guess. Not just in the way everyone else is going out very shortly, but I think out of this film, so we can go that we're going to talk about a few characters we're going to lose now, but we've saw Gamora, Loki, Heimbach, and Vision. They're gone. They're my not coming back unless something stupid happens in Avengers 4.
Before all of these bits, one thing that I've pointed out every time, when they're in the forest, right, and you can sense something, all I could think of was The Force Awakens with Kylo Ren and Rey in the forest. Like, when they build up Kylo coming out the forest together, that's all I keep thinking of. And then obviously when Thanos comes through, that's the thing. You knew he was going to use the time stone. Every time he's got a stone, he's displayed it in a scene of when he's had to. And he literally just grabs the time zone, doesn't even care about finishing the fight with the other guys. He just zaps out and comes in. And the fact he's just throwing them, he doesn't want to kill them, he just want to fight them. He's had enough. He just wants to get that final stone, click his fingers, and go home for the night. And I think I want to give credit to Marvel for putting that Captain America shot in the trailer, because that is from the final couple of minutes. But even Thanos is like surprised that Cap's got him. But then he just uses his second arm and just smack like round the face. But he comes back later, and I think we don't get enough of Cap in this film.
I agree.
You can say that for a lot of the Avengers. I think it's because it's all leading up for next year. But the moment in which he's just destroying them all one by one, it was a great moment of Scarlet Witch destroying the stone. But let's be honest, us three probably knew. I'm sure many people knew what was going to happen next. It's more the very casual fans that don't, the ones that didn't know it was 2 parts. Just the zap was amazing, and it's just the way he just grabbed him, and he doesn't like delicately put the stone out. No, he just rips a chunk of his forehead. He doesn't care. Forehead's gone, and he just like slaps Scarlet Witch about 20 foot away as well. And then you think, oh no, it's the end game. It's done, dusted. And then the mighty Thor.
Yes.
Genuinely at this point, when I was ready to cry, because when you see Thor, did he just get zapped by lightning first? I can't remember, but
I can't remember. I have to see it again.
He throws the hammer down, and not the hammer, the axe now. And obviously it's destroying the beam as well, which was amazing to watch. and then it gets lodged in his chest. And I thought at this point he was actually just going to like grab Thor and just like kill him on the spot. And I was terrified for a second. But then when Thor's like putting the axe further through his body, it's just the simple, you should have aimed for the head.
Or arm.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought as well. Like, if you chop the arm off, like
2 chances, guys.
and he has a double-edged axe as well.
They're just really dragging this shit out, aren't they, guys? Like, it's just.
But at least Thanos is making the comment this time. Like,
Yeah, it was that moment where he just looks at him. Suddenly, from almost looks like he's going to die, he's almost out. He just says, "Should have gone for the head," and you just go, "No," and then it happens.
I thought that's where it was going to end. I thought they were going to do a Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 ending where click, flash to white, credits, and then we'd find out what happens next time. But oh my god, the epilogue we get to this movie is just, in like the history of comic book movies, this is probably one of the ballsiest things I've ever seen them do.
it's
yeah.
it was the most like sensational 2 minutes of my life.
It was like it was like eerily beautiful as well. Like,
It's the first time you watch it, you know people are going to start to die, and it's not. It became the moments of right, who's next, and I think it was perfect because you kind of wonder, goes, well, they faded to white. You get the really cool scene with Gamora actually, which I think is the Soul Stone doing its thing. You know, I think the Soul Stone she'll be forever trapped with him in his thoughts and stuff because she was the sacrifice he had to do to get the stone, and I love that. You know, we get a scene with her and him first, then we go back to the real life stuff, and it was just, you know, shit's going down when Bucky just falls to the floor like Cap.
That was the one that shocked me the most, actually. Was
and then he
just first was like you don't see anything kind of going on, and like, oh, he clicked. Did he click? Did it work? Who has it? And then literally our first Avenger vanishes.
You're like Bucky, like because you're quite sad. But then the one I think that probably hit a lot of people most was Black Panther walks over to Okoye. You are convinced Okoye's gone.
Yeah.
So what is it like? This is no place to die, and then he just disapparates.
Yeah.
And her eyes is probably one like the most like in terms of performance for someone that doesn't say a word. The eyes on that like 3 seconds. That was like I think everyone else's reaction.
Yeah.
Because like wait, Black Panther, like no man, he just made $1.3 billion. What's going on?
Well, that was it for me. It was kind of. I knew that characters were going to die, and I know that Marvel were going to get rid of a lot of characters. But when Black Panther went, I still love the moment. I still think it was really emotional. But part of me went, "Oh, that's kind of a cop out because there's no way that they're going to kill off and keep Black Panther dead." Not just the fact that the movie made like well over $1 billion. It's like as Dave said, like a cultural phenomenon. They've already confirmed. I think they're doing Black Panther 2, and then you follow that up with like Spider-Man. Again, where Homecoming 2, you know they're going to build a franchise off that character. So a lot of the resounding effects of that death scene kind of were lessened for me because I know that in the next movie they're going to come back. I don't know how they're going to come back. Maybe some other characters will have to die in order to bring them back. But the point is that they are going to come back. And I guess
I don't know this yet.
It's a foregone conclusion with Black Panther and Spider-Man, I think. Like, there's no way they're going to keep those dead.
What I think is... The Black Panther death hit me because after that they go to Falcon, and you think, well, no one really cares. It's Falcon. Well, no, sorry, they've got War Machine and Falcon, and this is the point. This film suddenly starts showing multiple people on the same shot, so that one's going to disappear. When they got to Black Panther and Falcon, like there was no reaction of anyone. It was like, well, which one are you going? And like, oh, that one. Oh, and then do they cut to Titan? Can't remember who just. Oh no, Scarlet Witch goes. Which no one really cared about, I think.
Yeah, her story arc was over. And then we start using the Guardians.
Now, this when Mantis went, I don't think really anyone cared again. But then when Drax went, I was like, no, like Batista. And then Chris Pratt goes, and you're there like, oh, okay. Like, Groot was quite sad. I think it was more because he's like half, like he's 3/4 of the way through his words. And Rocket's like, no, like, don't go. And, that was quite a bit of a sad one, to be fair.
And then I think is the last. What is this? Oh no, Doctor Strange goes looking like he doesn't care about going.
He's just there. He's waiting like Tony. You know, this was the only choice.
Yeah.
And then he disappears. No shit to be given by Doctor Strange. Like I said, he's blatantly foreseen this. But then I think the biggest impact one is Tom Holland, and this is the one that shocked me most because at this point, I've got this feeling that okay, they're killing off people I didn't think they'd kill off, but we'll get us after. But in all credit to Tom Holland, what they've also come out and said this week, it was improvised. His line,
really?
But apparently his death was improvised. I don't want to go. And I won't lie, like this was the moment in which, like, even I thought, oh fuck, like they're actually going to get rid of Spider-Man. And when he says that line, you kind of sit there thinking, like, oh. Then I'm sat there thinking, Tobey Maguire's coming back. It's literally, I just said it out loud. People, not like annoyingly, but my friends could hear me. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
And then I did start laughing. Like when he starts lying down on the floor, it's really bad CGI on Tom Holland's face. The only time it is very bad is that one shot of him disappearing on the floor. But I love the fact that it left Tony Stark alive because, again, if you thought he'd survive Thanos, you'd think he'd probably die at the finger click. But nope, he's made it past that as well. And it's the guilt he feels with, because he's always felt guilty with Peter Parker because he brought him into it all.
Yeah.
He didn't want him on the ship. He didn't want this. And looking back, if you're going to make the sacrifice to get rid of them for the next film, then it would actually have even more repercussions on Tony Stark that Spider-Man's dead and it's all his fault that he brought him into it. Even though in natural order, he would have clicked his fingers and died anyway. It was bringing him on time, which I loved. But then that sets everything up for next year.
Mm-hmm. And not just that, but like Spider-Man, I have kind of, judging from the end of this movie and what he's gone up against in this movie, if we do get to Homecoming 2, whoever the villain's going to be, Scorpion, Mysterio's just going to be small potatoes compared to who he's got up against in this film. So it'll be very weird continuing the Spider-Man franchise after this point. Love the ending. Thought it was absolutely perfect. Should we talk about the post-credit scene?
Oh, yes.
We may as well.
We get the return of Mariah Hill. I'm sorry you all missed her.
Yeah, and Nick Fury. It's always good seeing Nick Fury, but I will kind of say it at this point. The whole Samuel Jackson motherfucker thing, it's kind of really old now. Like usually I laugh at that, but I just kind of rolled my eyes at it now. Like you just had to get one in there, didn't you? You just had to get one in there.
I mean, it's the only time he'll ever be able to do it in a Marvel film.
In a Marvel film.
Yeah, you get your one, don't you? At a 12A, you get your one F-bomb, and that's it.
And you didn't even get all the way through it, so let's be fair.
No.
Motherfucker.
I think with that scene, what's underrated, we see the reaction in like a city, the helicopter, the car crash, because it's important for the film to show us. Yeah, it's important to show us which Avengers have died because it's an Avengers film, and we do get that shot of the battlefield of all the Wakandans disappearing. I will say M'Baku survived. He is now the king. He is the rightful king, and the repercussions shown in the credit scene. Like I would have took that even without the Captain Marvel nod. That I loved seeing the real world action, the helicopter, the cars crashing, everything. It was a really cool scene, and I've got a feeling that we'll get maybe a bit more of that at the end of Ant-Man. Fingers crossed in a nice way.
Yeah.
But that's a big moment because it's now showing you the real world impact of what's happened.
Does make me wonder. I mean, the Captain Marvel thing is cool on the old new pager. A lot of people in that cinema probably aren't. Well, in probably your first screenings, a lot of people are going to be fully aware that that's Captain Marvel. Later on viewings, other people aren't going to be really know who that is. And I'd love to know though why she didn't go, oh, this looks really bad, I'll turn up for this. If she's this powerful, and this is was Nick Fury said it was Code Red, and that was the only reason that he'd contacted her. So that makes me wonder why she hasn't shown up for the rest of the time. But it was a really nice finish. You're right. I would like to see that. I would have let that play anyway. I would like to see when that ramification of people disappearing on bigger scale, I think. I would have liked to see it having a bigger effect, but it played really well. This is what's happening now. This is the real world. People are vanishing, planes crashing, everything's gone pretty bad. Half the people are gone.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I was trying to wipe the tears out my face still from Tom Holland dying. It was a bad time.
I was too, but for laughing.
Oh,
and it was when I sent, because I think Tate watched it at midnight, and he messaged me like, "What the fuck just happened?" And my message has been the same message sent to everyone else. Only one man can save them now, and it's the amazing Photoshop of Tobey Maguire in the Iron Spider costume. I think for that end moment of everyone dying, it is like quite an emotional credits, especially when you get the Avengers Infinity War words come up and they also evaporate. It's like the classic: if you want a happy ending, you've come to the wrong place.
Yeah,
and that's exactly how this film felt. But it was great though. it needed to be like this.
Yeah.
Because if it was all hunky dory, then you don't need Avengers 4 next year. There's nothing at stake. If they beat Thanos, then Avengers 4 is pointless. But now, looking ahead, I've got a lot of the endings, because like we said, these guys are going to come back. I would much rather see Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man fighting Thanos next year together, knowing that none of them have a film confirmed following on from Phase 4. All of their contracts some of their contracts are expiring. I think all 3 are, but for all we know, they might want to sign on for one more. If you killed off Iron Man, Cap, and Thor now, and you had Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and Black Panther in the final battle, then you sit there knowing, will all 3 of these have a Phase 4 film? So where are the stakes in this? So I think by killing half the universe, specifically of the character of the Avengers, everybody that's currently dead, i.e. evaporated, not dead like Loki, I've got a feeling they will come back. And everybody that's currently alive will all die. And I'm okay with that, because I think it's going to add so much more tension to the battle next year, not knowing who is going to be. Because the problem with the Marvel films is we've always said, almost every review we've done, we know they'll be fine because there's a film coming out next year. This is going to be the first time for some characters where we don't know. All the Guardians are dead except for Rocket. Is Rocket going to bite the dust? We don't know. So I think they've been very smart in eradicating half the Avengers to basically give us the original 6 with a couple of other people to have a final battle. It means story-wise next year they can focus on these characters. Next year will be the Avengers film more than the Thanos film. And then it will probably have an even more like heart-wrenching ending. It's very interesting to see their plans. I think it was very ballsy to evaporate people we think are going to come back.
Yeah.
The whole film for me was an experience that I was not that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting a really epic movie, but this took me places I had no idea I was going with this film, and I just had such a good time with it.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing all these characters together like never gets old when we get like Civil War or anything like that, or even when we're going back to the first Avengers films now, like where you had 6 characters and you was like, this is insane seeing this amount of characters to what they've grown to now with this movie. It's always fun to see, and I'm glad they went with an ending like this. It's definitely set up nicely for the next one. Ant-Man's going to come in and diffuse the tension. He's going to bring the comic relief. He's going to, some much needed comic relief after that one. Post-credit scene's intriguing as well. I will be honest that it's one of the only post-credit scenes that I've actually got right off the bat. Usually I've just gone like, Google, right, okay, what's that all about? Like the Adam Warlock one, or even like the original Thanos one, I didn't know what they were. So yeah, I think we've pretty much gone through everything. This has been a very, very long review. There's probably a lot of scenes we haven't talked about, a lot of neat little lines, little scenes. But I think we've done well. I think we've covered everything. George,
very quickly. One of the funniest lines is Drax. When Drax says, "Tell him about the time you saved the universe with a dance-off." That's probably the funniest line from the film in terms of the comedy moments. And it was a perfect Drax line. We didn't get too much of him in this film, which is great, because I felt in Guardians 2 there was a bit too much Drax. But Batista, always perfect.
Yeah. And probably one of the funniest comments I've ever read in my life from Nick Gatrell says, "Before I joined tonight, guys, I watched a review by Jodie's Corner, which called this the Batman v Superman of the MCU. His opinion, but I love the movie."
Oh,
wow.
the poor thing. Oh.
We need to find out now. Did Jodie's Corner like Batman v Superman, or did they dislike Batman v Superman?
Oh, the Batman v Superman. Oh,
I thought that argument ended when Civil War was Batman versus Superman. It was like a month later, and it made like 300 million more.
I will say, in both the endings of both movies, a giant CGI villain gets impaled by a sharp object.
But one of them does it great.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a comment that's been on Facebook currently at the minute, where they've got this really long post about how awful it is, and they say, and that was Justice League. I loved Infinity War. But I think next year Marvel have put themselves in a position where if they think they've like made you mess with your emotions right now,
yeah,
I think in a year's time there will be more tears, and there will be we'll have a definitive ending to this double parter.
Yeah,
we'll know who's come back. I don't think they'd bring back 4 or 5 that evaporated. I think they'd bring back everyone that evaporated, and then everyone will die across the course of the film that isn't already in it.
if you look at everyone that's gone, you've got Guardians of the Galaxy, that's going to continue on. You're going to have Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Bucky, who we've said is going to take up the mantle of Captain America eventually anyway, Black Panther. They're going to be your next phase of your Avengers. So maybe it will be a thing where they talk about like everything being perfectly balanced. Maybe it will be a life for a life kind of thing. Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, Thor will have to sacrifice themselves in order for the others to continue, maybe.
I want to see Thor join Guardians of the Galaxy.
Permanent, cool. Yeah, permanent membership.
It's like, we'll trade you Chris Pratt for Chris Hemsworth. Done.
But like, I can see that shot in part 2 now, where you're going to have the Captain America shield just like slowly fall to the ground and like break in half or something like that. I can guarantee now that's going to be a shot in the trailer or something for the next movie.
He will come back full shield, clean shaven. He's going to return to Cap for the final battle.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see what they do. And here's a question, right? Would you guys rather everybody comes back from being evaporated before the final fight or after?
After, because I want this to kind of be the last rodeo for the original lineup of the Avengers.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I think I'd like to see them. Yeah, the people are going to get brought back at the end because of what has happened. And I guess when the people who come back, that's how many times do you say come back? Shot. That they will find the Avengers who have brought them back are no longer there. Yeah. That they have lost those people. They're gone. Whatever they've done to bring them back meant that these are the guys who are left, and they're keeping on the Avengers.
Yeah,
the old Avengers are dead and gone.
And Doctor Strange goes, "It's my franchise now. We've got to."
Benedict Cumberbatch is literally just there, like with like all the screaming behind him. It's the screaming franchise. The screaming girls. They love Benedict Cumberbatch. They all turn to Tom Holland. Now adding Black Panther, and it's just screaming meltdown.
Right, I think that's brought our very, very long spoiler-filled discussion to a close. So thank you, George. Thank you, Dave, for jumping on tonight and taking many, many hours out of your schedule to join us tonight. Thank you to everyone in the comments as well. Brinsley, Nick, Auburn, Sheila, you've all been great. That'll do it for our review today. I'm not sure what we've got planned next, actually. I know next week is our 3-year anniversary on the channel. We've been discussing ideas to get a video out for that, whether it's going to be a new Battle of the Brackets episode, a Q&A, or some other kind of video. We will definitely have something next week. There'll be more trailer reactions from me. Dave, do you want to talk about your YouTube channel at all? I know you've hit
if you're interested at all in sort of geeky builds, I'm doing the DeLorean partwork build and an R2 build. Other my main focus at the moment. Just hit 515 subscribers. If you want to add to those, that'd be lovely. So yeah, if you want to come up with The Life of Brian, at The Life of Brian, spelled my surname way, not the movie way, not tied at all. But yeah, Life of Brian, please come on over if you do want to have a look.
Awesome. I don't actually know. I think our next movie review is probably going to be Deadpool in 2 weeks' time.
Hey.
Until then, Avengers is going to continue to dominate at the box office. I'll be seeing it again this weekend. I'm sure you're all going to see it again at some point. That'll do it for our video tonight, guys. Thank you to everyone who watched. And until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.